What's going on, guys? Just wanted to do my weekly recap for you guys and kind of break down each day the trades I liked, what I actually took, so on and so forth. So before we start, I actually called out this week perfectly, anticipating a Tuesday high a week weekly profile. As you can see right here, that is exactly what we got. Monday, we drive higher, right? And into Tuesday overnight, we get a push higher, sweep the previous day high, and then we start distributing lower, right? And then what happens? Thursday, low a week, like a typical Tuesday high week weekly profile. And then on Friday, overnight, we return back into the range so perfectly, just like this picture right above. Okay, so aside from that, each day I've been calling out my draws on liquidity and what I am looking to target each day, which I'm going to show you. All my targets were met and all my draws were getting absolutely smacked every single day. And this is a part of the free Discord. I'm going to show you a picture right here. Aside from that, if you are not already in the free Discord, I highly suggest you join because this is going to be converted to a paid feature sooner than later, because this is just so much sauce that is really just helping people make money. You just wait for my draws that are the high probability draws to get, trended towards, and you just take your trade towards it. Okay. So it is super helpful. I highly recommend you guys to join. But aside from that, let's jump right into it and go over the trades for each day. Okay, so Monday, obviously we had draws higher. We had all these low resistance highs right here, right? We had high, high. Obviously these are all stacked highs, high, right? We had all these highs stacked. At open, what happens? We pump and take out Asia highs right at open. I actually anticipated this move, so I ended up actually taking this halfway through the candle. It was something like this. Once I realized we were actually going to push up, I took my trade, something like this, right to Asia highs, right? Nothing crazy, just simple trade. Aside from that trade, I think the better trade actually, after we see this reaction after sweeping Asia highs, and then we get a pullback. Although we didn't tap a gap, if I remember correctly, ES may have tapped a gap, but even if it didn't, I like the retrace and I like the reaction. So after we get this and we get this bullish reaction, I like longs right here. You could have had your stop here, could have been protected. Here is a little more sketchy, but it's still a good trade. Let's say you took the safer route, right? Or you did something in between. It doesn't really make sense, but let's just play safe, to be honest. Okay, targeted this first high for about a 1.7R, and then you could have ended up holding the trade to the next highs, which was 2.7 and 2.9R. Obviously, you never got break even on this trade, and we just kept pushing higher throughout the day. This was probably the best trade of the day, if you took it, great trade. And then obviously we moved higher. We just kind of grinded higher throughout the day, and that is it for Monday. Now, if we go to Tuesday, overnight, what happened? We swept Asia highs and swept previous day high, right? Because these are the highs right here. We swept previous day high, and now we have London highs, Asia lows, and we have a whole bunch of imbalances down here. So let's jump down to the 1 minute. Okay, so right at open, what happened? We absolutely dump right down. We take out Asia lows. Now, I did not catch this move, and if you weren't able to catch this move, then that is completely okay as well. Now, I ended up getting break even on this trade because I got a shit entry. Personally, I should have taken my short entry right here with the stop here, and then I forgot what we were targeting exactly. Okay, so it was these lows right here, right? These lows right here, or there was also more lows down here. Okay, so these were the lows. I'm pretty sure it was previous day low and then something else. Could have been break even here at the first low and then targeted the second low for about 1.9R. This, in my opinion, was probably the best trade. Aside from that, the other good trades could have been something like this. After we rejected this gap, right, as we're displacing lower on this candle, could have caught an entry, right, like this. Could have gone break even at this low right here. And then what targets did we have? I'm pretty sure we had an unfilled fair value gap right about here, which absolutely smacked. If you shorted, you probably made money on this day, as you should have. the reason where I went wrong and ended up getting break even is super unfortunate because I was hesitant. After we started pushing down, I realized I was like, okay, I'm going to take my entry. Got a super late entry, dog shit entry. Was going to take it here to probably like, I forget where it was. No, my stop was above this candle, right? This was where my stop was. I was going to target this. It was something around this for about like a 1-to-1. Maybe I had a target a little lower. Oh, okay. It was this one right here. This is what I was targeting. I was going to go break even at the first, target this low right here for about a 1.6R. What ends up happening, right? We sweep the first low, and then guess what happens? We wick up higher. Let me delete this so you guys can see it. We wick up higher, and then we just stop me out by like 2 ticks, and then continue lower and lower and lower. Obviously in hindsight, it's like, oh, you took a late entry and you could have just held it anyway. But I learned my lesson in these tighter kind of trades. I'm not going to completely go break even at an internal low or like that. When we have stacked lows like that, I probably just should have mitigated my risk a bit instead of completely going break even. But you live and you learn. Got to just improve on that because that kind of hurt. That was my one loss for the week. Now let's jump into Wednesday. Obviously still expanding lower. Okay, I took the trade that I think everybody took. Right here is when we had the SMT, right? We had SMT here. And then, or no, it was here, right? ES, I remember, was so much higher than NQ, so I guess maybe it wasn't this high. Regardless, right? We had 10 a.m. news, so we were pushing lower towards these lows right here. Obviously, this is the draw for today or for that day. So we're just chopping around, waiting for news, getting closer to news. And then I ended up taking my trade after we dumped here, right? Retraced. And then I entered right here on this candle open. And I had a really tight stop. And I targeted this low right here. Such a small trade, to be honest. Like a lot of these trades have been like super scalpy, which I kind of want to stray away from, but it just kind of how it's been happening. But aside from that, obviously we just head right to the low, and you could have targeted even lower. I'm pretty sure there was another gap or some shit down there. I forget. I'm probably missing something that I was targeting. I believe there was a second low. Okay, that was previous day low. If I remember correctly, we had a low at like 180 or something like that's what it was. Okay. It was like 180. So that was my break even spot. And then that was the trade right there down to 180 or whatever the hell it was, somewhere down there for about 2.3R. That was a great trade. You could have taken continuation shorts, lower throughout the day off like this flip or something around here. Maybe this inverse, you got stopped, but something like this, we just kind of dumped all day. So as long as you were patient, you probably caught a move. But in my opinion, this was the best trade of the day. If I remember correctly, this is what I saw a ton of people actually take. It was a very good setup. But yeah, let's move on to Thursday. Okay, so obviously we've been bearish as shit. But we have these imbalances we need to fill in order to move higher. Now, I remember this day very vividly because we needed to rebalance to a 1 hour gap before heading lower. And I said, listen, if we're going to keep pushing lower, which I expect us to do, we're going to have to retrace to some sort of higher time frame imbalance, which completely makes sense. And that's how the markets move as a whole. Okay, so what happens here? I'm like, okay, my draws. One of my draws was these highs and then the 1 hour gap. So we get manipulation lower at open. We sweep this internal range low right here. Okay, we sweep that internal range low and then we get a huge displacement candle out of it. I was like, okay, I really like this. I think we're gonna go push to those, that 1 hour high. So I honestly got a bad entry yet again. I kind of have to be a little more confident with my entries. I took it after we tapped this 1 minute gap, right? We retrace. We are now in first percent of fair value gap, and I took it like right here. Okay, so then I ended up having my stop. Where is that wick? Okay, this is what I took, something like this. for about a 1-to-1 risk to reward. That's what it was. I know I don't have the exact entry. It's probably like this. To be honest with you, I just don't remember exactly what it was, but this is basically my trade. Clear draw being those, high, and then the hourly gap. So this was super clean. Obviously, it was counter a higher time frame trend, and you could have ended up catching, these shorts. Another good trade if you're super patient was once we flipped this, you could have entered short like right here, targeting these lows for a fat risk to reward, and then whatever more lows we had, I believe we ended up having like an hourly fair value gap from a long time ago, but shorts played out after you see us reject out of the 15 and the 1 hour. Look at this candle completely engulfing and mitigating this bullish candle, and then we just tanked lower. Obviously continuing with that higher time frame bearish trend and weekly profile of Thursday low week. We grind all the way lower. We had bad earnings, so that just pushed us even more lower. And then, okay, now we get to Friday. Now, I expect the low week to be put in. Why? Because ES just took previous month low overnight. And, like I said, with the weekly profile, I was expecting us to retrace into the range a bit. So overnight, as we could see right here, we are now pushing back higher. We're respecting bearish PD arrays. We, tap these imbalances, push higher, keep moving up, right? It's a good uptrend here that we're getting. So now, coming into today, we had a 4-hour bearish gap, which could be marked out right here. And we had a 1-hour bullish gap. So these are the two things I was watching. And once again, I told my Discord that these are the draws I am looking for to be met. So we will see. We're in between two imbalances. I want to see something get tapped and then reverse and go to the other one. So what happened here, we had an SMT at these lows right off the open. So right here, we had this SMT. Manipulation lower, right at open. And then if you watch this candle play out, it was just insane. We just face rip higher. And I was like, okay. Also, this gap is not drawn correctly. Give me 1 second to fix that. Okay, yes, here we go. Okay, there it is. Okay, perfect. I was going to say, because I took this trade and I know that's not what it looked like. Okay, so you could have just entered long right on this displacement candle, right? Like right here. The thing is your stop, it would have been cooked. Like you would have had a wide ass stop. Could have targeted obviously the gap, maybe 50% of the gap, New York AM high, whatever the case may be if you entered there. But, oh, I did not get that entry. That is not the trade I took. The trade I took is right here. I realized we are bouncing out of this crazy displacement first percent gap. I see us wicking out of it. I say, okay, I take my entry here. Honestly, it was kind of aggressive. I had my stop below here, but I had a very clear draw. It wasn't a crazy range. And I took my trade right into this hourly high. Super simple trade, super, quick as well. What could I have done better? We did have standard deviation levels that were aligned to be like 2.5 right here. So what could I have done better? Could have gone break even here or partial here potentially, and then held my trade into the 2.5 standard deviation level. But now I'm just being a little nitpicky. There was nothing wrong with my trade. Aside from that, there weren't that many great opportunities early after we retraced. But then after this, there was some good, clean price action. This wasn't a bad trade. You would have been break even, right? After we come up here or up here, you would have been break even after we tap, this imbalance right here. And then you eventually get break even. Aside from that, it would have been tricky, but you could have entered a trade like up here. I don't know. It was kind of chopped. I don't really know if I like this. I also wouldn't be on the charts at this time. Could have targeted the 4 standard deviation, which clearly gets met. And then you could have held for 4.5 standard deviation, which also gets met for about 2R. But I'm not on the charts at that time. I don't recommend you to be on the charts at that time. I think the trade of the day was kind of the one I took and just held a little bit higher. Not expecting a crazy move after we had that huge, sell-off this week and expansion this week. So that's basically it for the weekly recap. I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. I'm going to start uploading these every single week. Like I said, join my free Discord. I call my draws every single day. I live trade every single day as well. once in a while I won't live trade, God forbid something happens, or, I just want to take the day off. But I'm still active in my Discord at all times and still sending my draws, which have been absolutely smashing. So aside from that, I appreciate you all watching this video. Like I said, drop me a follow on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. All my socials are at Teeb Trading, Teeb Trading. And make sure you join the free Discord that is going to be in the description so you don't miss out on all the value that I am providing for free, because this is not going to be free forever. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.